The wind outside the towering glass building rattled the windows like a warning, as if the world already knew that Adrian Cole, once celebrated as the youngest self-made CEO in the tech world, was moments away from signing the papers that would officially declare his company bankrupt. His hands trembled slightly as he stared at the document in front of him, a single signature capable of erasing a decade of sacrifice, sleepless nights, and dreams he once believed were indestructible. The board had given up. Investors had disappeared. His closest partners had abandoned ship long before the storm had reached its peak. Now, the empire he created was collapsing, and he was powerless to stop it. The morning sun cast long, sharp beams through the office, illuminating the empty chairs, the dust on the award shelf, and the tired, defeated man at the center of it all. Adrian's breath was shaky, his heart unsteady, as he whispered to himself that maybe this was the end. If you believe in kindness, miracles, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness to support these heart-touching stories. Just as Adrian reached for his pen, the office door creaked open, breaking the heavy silence. He exhaled in frustration, assuming it was another lawyer or financial advisor coming to confirm the inevitable. But instead, he turned to find Mira Hale, the building's part-time receptionist and full-time single mother, standing uncertainly in the doorway. Her cheeks were flushed from rushing, her hair slightly messy, and beside her, holding her hand tightly, stood her 5-year-old daughter, Aria, a tiny girl with soft brown curls, wide observant eyes, and a mismatched pair of butterfly clips in her hair. Adrian blinked in confusion as Mira apologized softly, explaining that she hadn't found a babysitter today and had to bring her daughter with her. She motioned for Aria to stay near the door, not wanting to disturb the stressed CEO. But the little girl's gaze drifted past her mother, toward the papers on Adrian's desk. With the innocence only a child could have, she tugged her hand free and walked forward slowly, her shoes tapping lightly against the marble floor. Adrian tried to gently tell her that he was in the middle of something important, but Aria didn't respond. Instead, she reached up, placing her small hand on the corner of the document, tilting her head curiously. She traced her finger along the rows of numbers and crookedly typed financial lines as if she were reading a storybook instead of a corporate autopsy. Mira gasped and hurried forward, trying to pull her daughter back, but Aria spoke first, her tiny voice echoing in the large room. "Sir, you missed this number." The innocence and certainty in her tone froze Adrian in place. He blinked, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or gently correct her. But when he leaned forward to see what she had pointed at, his breath caught in his chest. A faint, almost invisible calculation error sat buried in the spreadsheet of projected losses. His accountants had reviewed these numbers for weeks. They had sworn the amount was final. But there it was, an overlooked figure in a secondary column that changed the entire financial equation. It wasn't a miracle, but it was a mistake big enough to mean that his company still had a chance, a small, fragile chance. Adrian's pulse quickened as he opened his laptop and began rechecking every line. Mira stood frozen with embarrassment, apologizing again, but Adrian barely heard her. His eyes were wide, his hands moving fast, his mind racing. Line after line shifted. Losses shrank. Cash flow estimates corrected themselves. A possibility, one he had long abandoned, slowly began to take shape. His company wasn't healthy. But it wasn't dead. When he finally looked up, Aria was smiling shyly, rocking on her heels as if she had simply pointed out a missing crayon in a drawing instead of altering the course of an entire corporation. He felt a sudden warmth build in his chest, the kind that only comes when life hands you something you weren't expecting, a moment of grace. Adrian thanked her gently, his voice thick with emotion, and Mira looked stunned, confused, and mildly terrified that her little girl had stepped into something so serious. But Adrian shook his head with a weak, grateful smile. "Your daughter may have saved my company," he whispered. In the hours that followed, everything changed. Instead of signing bankruptcy papers, Adrian called an emergency meeting. Instead of giving up, he fought. The corrected numbers opened a door to renegotiate loans, restructure departments, and rebuild the company from the inside out. Investors who had turned away suddenly reconsidered when he presented the new, accurate forecasts. A few employees he thought lost forever returned, believing in the new plan. For the first time in months, hope, small, fragile, flickering, began to spread through the halls of the failing company. Through it all, one image kept replaying in Adrian's mind, a small hand pointing to a line everyone else had missed. Weeks later, when things began to stabilize and the company regained its breath, Adrian invited Mira and Arya to visit again. This time, his office wasn't heavy with despair, it was filled with sunlight, fresh flowers, and the gentle hum of rebuilding energy. He offered Mira a full-time position with benefits, explaining that he owed much of the turnaround to her daughter's innocent observation. Myra's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away, overwhelmed by gratitude, relief, and the sudden disappearance of years of financial struggle. Arya, meanwhile, climbed into the big leather chair and giggled as she spun slowly, unaware she had changed the life of the man sitting in front of her. Adrian didn't stop there. He created a small scholarship fund in Arya's name, the Arya Hope Grant, to help children of struggling single parents gain access to early education programs. It was his way of honoring the moment that saved him, a reminder that sometimes answers come from the unlikeliest places, wrapped in innocence and honesty. On a bright afternoon, sun high, hope higher, Adrian stood by the office window watching Mira and Arya walk away, hand in hand. The world felt different, lighter, as though life had quietly whispered that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. He thought of how close he had come to giving up, how a small voice had pulled him back from the edge, and how kindness had woven itself into the most broken moment of his life.